pay attention, be aware of what's going on around you. Pay attention to other people and pay attention to your actions. And in fact, you might have conjured up a negative reaction on their part, and it might have had something to do with something you did or didn't do.
I see.
So there's pay attention. There's acknowledge a person. How many times, when my students everybody likes to get on a rant about what they don't like about the city, but then we also work very hard to identify what we do like about it, and there's a lot there. But when they start talking about, why people are being rude or whatever, we sort of say, well, what went on there? And they say, well, I was just walking down the street and I could swear they deliberately turned their head away not to look at me, not to acknowledge that I was there. I felt like I was invisible. I felt that was rude. So even though that person did not say a word to my student, by just glancing away, and it could be that person thought, well, I don't know this stranger. I'm just going to look the other way because I'm going to mind my own business. That, in fact, can be construed as not civil.
Incredible. Have you noticed that behavior is quite a pattern in the city of Boston?
People say that quite often, that is a Boston, as opposed to in some southern cities where
right.
Hello, how are you, howdy, is just as easy as breathing.
It just comes naturally.
Yes, it
Was
is.
here, most of these people that I saw and that I see walking by make an art of not looking at you. Have you noticed that?
There definitely, there definitely is that. Now, so what would you do when that happens, or what do you do when that happens to you?
I normally look at them. I'm fascinated by human beings. I'm a very curious person. I do make a distinction between staring and looking, of course, but I cannot help but look at people. I'm very attentive to people. I pay attention to their hairstyles, to the way they walk, to the way they talk, to the way they interact within a group, to the way they think. I'm just fascinated by the human body.
People, we are fascinating. We are funny. And the students definitely do recognize that when they do more of their memos and just watch and maybe say, hey, I'm pretty funny too. I never thought I acted this way when somebody does this to me. But let's flip that around. So we had that avoidance of making eye contact.
Why do you think is that the case, Stephanie? What's
well,
your
I'm not
take
a native Bostonian either, so I came from, New York City. Hey, there's a place that people would say, well, they're people friendly there. I'd say, oh, yes, we are. We're in such a hurry and we're so worried we'll never see that person we're crossing paths with again that we will just talk about everything and anything fast, very fast.
Same.
That's sometimes considered rude, but I think New York is pretty friendly, more friendly. But getting back to it, so what can one do? Because it could be that this person is not even aware. It might be a reflex that they're just saying, well, or we're taught, don't look at strangers, they might follow you home. Might be fear behind that.
I see.
But perhaps a smile or a good morning or lovely day.
That's right.
Might, in fact, get contagious and person might mirror that back to you.
That's what I do as a rule.
That's what Goffman has always said.
That's what I do as a rule at the gym. I say hello
to
people who do not want to even acknowledge my existence, Stephanie.
And do sometimes say hello back to you?
Sometimes they do.
There you go.
Sometimes, some of them, I feel the vibration that I shouldn't have done that. I shouldn't have acknowledged that.
Well, then there's another rule that comes in. So why don't I just read a little bit of them for you? Another rule is learn the subtle no and respect it. So if that person is saying, I don't want to interact with you right now, okay, that's just fine. And also give a person their space. You know, the sidewalks are the spine of our cities. And I have my students really study sidewalk behavior themselves as well. And we're all strangers sharing this common piece of concrete, which is pretty narrow compared to other cities where you usually have big, wide sidewalks that gives you an ease of flow. But here we're kind of compressed and going around trees, and in Berkeley, bicycles that are all wrapped around the poles and such. So there's a lot of navigation, and we have to be aware. Be aware. Some people just don't want to be your best friend and don't even want to say nice day today. Respect it. That's the way they are. That's just fine. Give them their space. There'll be someone else that you will interact with. So there are 25 rules. Some of them overlap, and I'll just read some that the students identified as important to them. The first one, pay attention. Be mindful. We've been talking about that. Acknowledge others. Realize their existence, okay? Even though they're strangers, if they're there, if they've got to cross, when you're crossing, if you're driving, we can get into a whole big conversation about that. And the extreme negative of not being civil in driving is road rage, of course.
Of course.
So listen. Oh, this is a big one. Listen, really listen. Hemingway has said some marvelous things about how we really don't know how to listen. He has said, to be a good writer, you've got to be a good listener. He said, we don't listen. Most people don't listen. We're so busy making up our script in our mind of what we're going to say as soon as we can get a word in. We don't listen to
one another,
the other part of the conversation. So listen. When you're talking with somebody, listen to that person and really listen, and get off of your agenda. Get away from your head. Be inclusive. Okay, we talked about be inclusive. Respect even a subtle no. So that could be you inviting somebody to join you, come to your house for your party. Everybody's coming, and the person just doesn't like the parties.
Want to come.
Oh, I won't accept that. You must come. Well, that might be threatening to someone. So they don't, so respect the subtle no. Back to city life and the strangers on a sidewalk. If a person doesn't want to interact, doesn't want to accept your glance, just let it be. Let it be.
Do not fight it.
Don't. And I don't want to call it a Boston thing, because I think Boston's got so many things about it. So that could just be that individual's thing. Mm-hmm. Mind your body. Now that's another good one, isn't it? A demonstration of public civility. Practice good hygiene, especially when you're in closed spaces and you're going to be in the subway, you're going to be on a bus. Take a shower, when you know you're going to be traveling. Keep it down. Quiet, please. Please realize that sometimes in public spaces, people need that time to think and don't want to hear your cell phone conversation. Respect other people's time. When people are in a hurry, don't dawdle. If you're in a hurry and somebody in front of you isn't, well, figure out a way you can get in front, but don't realize that their agenda is not necessarily yours. Yours is not necessarily theirs. Apologize earnestly. Say I'm sorry and mean it. Really mean it. And make sure you say you're sorry if you bump into someone and didn't mean to. Say, oh, I'm so sorry. Are you okay? Add that little extra. And then just, that goes a long way.
It might provoke
and it makes you feel good, but it also has the possibility
of creating
a rippling effect.
A rippling effect on the other person.
Be a considerate guest. Now, this book is not written specifically for city. I adapt it to my curriculum. And I would say, be a considerate guest. Yes, when you're in public space, you are a guest. You're a guest in the park. You're a guest on the sidewalk. Be considerate. Clean up after yourself. Right? Respect the